Welcome back to JUCO Jam. This is season 2, episode 6. With me, as always, is Brandon Goebel. Mr. Goebel, thanks for being here. Are you excited to get into the rewind?
I'm super excited, man. We had a heck of a week of basketball.
Let's start off with some whack-jack action. Monday, January 8th, we had Odessa put it on Midland 73-52. Willie Lightfoot with 22. Might be my favorite player out on Odessa. That left-handed shot's getting smooth, getting more playing time. It looks better and better every week. Midland only 4 of 27 from three, 15%. And then South Plains played New Mexico. South Plains wins 76-61. South Plains really played some stifling defense. Jabari McGee, Malik Ewan with 20 points. Ewan also had 14 rebounds. Bear Cherry, 17 and 8 for New Mexico. New Mexico hit only 6 out of 21 from three. Thoughts on Whack-Jack Monday action?
Yeah, I mean, going to be tough for Midland when they just can't get the three ball to fall at all. You know, they're still trying to get Luke Davis eligible, which is going to be a big piece for them if they can from the physicality standpoint. So, you know, until that happens or doesn't happen, they have to be able to make shots like that to keep up in the league there. And then the South Plains New Mexico game started out, you know, it was a much closer game than that final 15-point score. New Mexico was right there. You know, everybody was fighting, and then South Plains just kind of kicked it into another gear, led by I think really the way that South Plains is going to go is going to be how Jabari McGee goes. So Jabari just cranked it up. Malik Ewan played great, tough, physical, bear. Watching those two going against each other was awesome. But Jabari just kind of really took it into another gear, and New Mexico just couldn't keep up. And you know, Jabari McGee is a big reason why South Plains is the number one team in the country.
Absolutely. Wednesday, we had two excellent matchups. Going to start with out in the Jayhawk Conference, Barton 86 versus Garden City 78. For Barton, Miles Thompson 23 and 8. Ring had 20 and 5. They out rebounded Garden City 37-26. And for Garden City, it was the usual suspects: Brody Robinson with 26, Braxton Jones with 24. Huge win for Barton.
Yeah, you know, Barton was interesting because you know, Miles and Ring are great players, but I think Garden City was maybe expecting the punch to come from some other areas.
Right, the
Uh,
guards, right? You're starting, yeah.
yeah, yeah, and it just, you know, those two really just stepped up and said, "Hey, we got this one." Brody Robinson, Braxton Jones, again, fantastic. Garden City's got some of the best guards in the entire country. You know, unfortunately, just they couldn't stop this extra oomph that came from Barton. You know, they unfortunately just haven't been able to have the same Mose Downing Rivers this year. And so they have found lots of different ways to win. They found different players to have the game of the night. And in this one, it came from Ring and Miles.
And then as we matriculate across the country and go further west, big game out in Idaho, Salt Lake 65, CSI 70, huge win in Twin Falls. For Salt Lake, they were led by Jordan Battle with 14. Kind of a trend that we're going to talk about today. Salt Lake struggled from three, hit only 6 out of 24 from three. CSI, Jalen Johnson with 22, Asim Jones with 14, Shaheed Muhammad really coming on strong. 4 points, 12 rebounds, but six big block shots.
Yeah, so we got this like polar vortex settling across the country this last week. It seems like it's also settled into everybody's three-point shooting for some reason. But you know, Salt Lake is not trying to play in games, you know, the 60-70 type games. So CSI was really able to control that pace there. And I think that had a huge part to do with it. And CSI is really just kind of rediscovered itself here the second half of the season, where early on, you know, they had some losses that were a bit of head scratchers for them, at least for what they were expecting on the year. So a CSI team that is finding itself during conference play and starting to take off is not a team that you're going to want to see very often.
Absolutely not. We're going to move to the weekend. Five big games on Saturday. We'll start with John A. Logan at Vincennes. Vincennes won 87-80. They actually snapped the streak where John A. Logan had beat the Todd Father and Vincennes 9 consecutive times. Vincennes was led by LeBron Thomas, 27 points on an incredible 16 out of 16 from the free throw line. I love free throws. Chris King, 20 points for Vincennes on 3 of 3 from three. Julian Norris probably had his best game as a volunteer with 20 points off the bench. And Elliott Lowndes, 13 points, 9 blocks. Like you can really see him develop. I know he was a JA 48 guy from where he was last year. Like it's starting to click for Elliott. And if it continues to go like that, I mean, big things could be in his future.
Yeah, for sure. LeBron Thomas, one of the best guards in the country, hands down, freshman qualifier that just is really, really finding a whole separate gear here. And Coach Franklin will tell you that that's the guy that stirs the drink for them. But Chris King, big game, and then yeah, Elliott Lowndes, seeing him really kind of start to figure it out is great. Being playing more physical, being more defensively minded. He's a tough kid. He's a great kid. John A. Logan just not having the season that they really wanted coming off the championship. But on any given night, I mean, a 7-point loss to Vincennes, Vincennes will tell you how tough a game that is. John A. Logan's going to be a tough out each and every night. So it's going to be kind of interesting to see if John A. Logan can just kind of keep building, keep building, keep building, keep putting it together, for a run during conference tournament and see what they can make happen.
Yeah, you just never know when you bring all new kids in. Like it happens at JUCO so often, right? Like you just don't know when they're going to click. Like the team they had last year just clicked on day one and they just took off and they ran with it, and nobody really caught them. This year's team's taking a little bit longer to gel, but you can see it. It's all happening right now. So as you said, they're going to be a tough out here in the second half of the year. Um, we're going to talk about the JUCO Jam jinx. Is it real? Is it not? But it happened in Kansas. Cali 62, Cloud 78. Donnie Jackson, head coach of Cali, on the show last week. Cloud put all 5 players in double figures. The Polar Vortex, I don't know. Cali 5 for 20 from 3. But we've talked about Cloud a lot. We both respect that program. It has a really cool style, kind of Princeton concepts that they run. You're not going to run the table in the Jayhawk anyways. You don't go undefeated, but good win for Cloud and good opportunity to bounce back for Cali.
Yeah, that style of play is just it's tough, man. And it's a bit like in the Mountain West where teams will play Air Force and all of a sudden, they're just like slamming their head into the wall going, "Oh my gosh, we have to completely readdress everything that we've done to prepare for a scheme that we just don't see very often." He does a heck of a job coaching those kids up. They've got some really talented players at Cloud. I mean, realistically, like there's a lot of teams in this Jayhawk that are, maybe they make it to Hutch, maybe they don't, but the ones that don't, um, you would say, or at least, they may not be there, but they're deserving of being one of the best 25 teams, 24 teams in the country. And, Cloud, like I said, it just the way that they play with that talent combined, when they get things clicking, when they, run stuff the way that they want to run it, man, they are tough.
Great game down south in Florida. Chipola 76 versus Northwest Florida 73. Two of the great coaches in junior college basketball going at it. It went to overtime as it should. For Chipola, five starters, all in double figures, led by J.J. Walton with 15 and 10. Northwest Florida hit an incredible 13 3-pointers. They out-rebounded Chipola 44 to 37, but really the difference in the game was Chipola hit 26 free throws to Northwest Florida only hit 10. And for Northwest, their top 2 scorers were Shea Jones with 27 and Tawan Simpkins come off the bench with 17. Fantastic junior college basketball game.
Yeah, how much fun is it to watch Donnie Tyndall and Steve DeMeo coach against each other?
The
Yeah.
greats. They're on the Mount
Some of my
Rushmore.
favorite, yeah, for some of my favorite times in person have been on the side, the media row, whatever.
You like to get right between them on media row,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
You like to have
right
Donnie on your
between the
left, DeMeo on your right, and getting the
yeah,
full
when DeMeo
experience.
is there, and DeMeo is the absolute king of saying things with a smile on his face, and all of a sudden the other coach will hear him and look down and say, and just give him this look. I mean, he is just incredible at getting under people's skin as he's coaching. I love it, and so I would have loved to have been on media row for this one and listen to these two very experienced, very very savvy coaches do their craft. And so, somebody had to win this game, but either one was going to be a hell of a win.
We're going to go back out west again to Twin Falls. Snow 71, CSI 85. Two huge wins for the Eagles. Jalen Johnson, 22, Asim Jones, 21. I mean, this was a statement week in Twin Falls. So CSI, they're at the top of the division. They're the team to beat right now. It goes through them. They control their own destiny.
Yeah, yeah, they're really stepping up at the right time. Yes, Coach Reinert would have loved to have gotten a couple more of those wins earlier in the season. But if you're going to pick a time for your team to kind of finally figure it out and say, here we are, here's who we are, and here's what we're going to do, now is the time. They've still got plenty of time to kind of rebuild everything from a national exposure standpoint with the voters and all that sort of thing. So, team that is absolutely about as dangerous as they have been all season.
And Coach Reiner doesn't seem like the type of guy who'd want to hang a banner for an undefeated November, anyways.
This is true.
So
This
they're
is
they're
true.
peaking at the right time. Um, Great game in Missouri. Mineral Area 61 versus Moberly scored 46. Speaking of polar vortex, Mineral held Moberly scoreless for 14 minutes of gameplay. The coach hire has that team playing unbelievable defense, just on another level. Mineral Area is going to be a really, really difficult team for anybody to beat this season.
Yeah, Mineral Area honestly has been one of the bigger stories of the season so far. They were a team that people saw early on that just, didn't really know what they were or what they wanted to be or
There
know a
was a
lot.
jamboree story, right? There was a jamboree story floating around about how they got beat by 38 points in a jamboree, right?
100%. Everybody's
Right.
everybody's talking about it. I mean, I watched that game. I was there, and everybody looked at each other and went, "Oh no." What's going on? Well, you give Coach GH a little bit of time and he's going to figure out how to get the guys rocking. I mean, to hold a team for 14 minutes without a field goal is bonkers. Like,
Right. This was a real team. This is a
yeah, yeah,
legit team with dudes. Um, they're playing defense, and Coach Hire coaches like his hair's on fire. He's super intense. His guys have picked up that intensity, and they're a fun team to watch. And I know you were really interested for this game, Brandon. Sunday, Dawson, North Dakota State College of Science. This is where the kids are just used to this polar vortex, right? They shot the threes really, really well. It did not bother them. They might be the only two schools in the country that shot the ball well this week. Ty Buckman, 23 points on six of eight from three. Dawson hit 14 out of 21 from three. They hit 54% of their shots from the field, yet they lost the game because they had 24 turnovers. For NDSCS, Caleb Larson, 20 points on 6 of 9 from three, 5 players in double figures. If you like sharpshooters, this was your game.
yeah, for sure. And the big footer for North Dakota Sciences didn't disappoint either. Um, Yeah, the rest of the country is just, cranking up the heat and lighting their fireplaces and everything else. And these guys are playing basketball up near the Canadian border like it's not a big deal. Ty Buckman, we talked about him last week on the show, expected big things out of him, showed up, but they just couldn't control the ball. North Dakota Science's Caleb Larson just, I mean, flamethrower out there. It's likely that only one team is going to come out of that region to then go on and have a chance to make it to Hutch. If I'm on the opposite side of that district game, whichever of these two teams I'm facing, I'm very nervous.
I hate to put you on the spotlight for that, but is the game this year, will it be played near the Canadian border or is it in Iowa?
I think it's in Iowa. I think
Okay.
last year it was up in the Great North.
The frozen tundra.
Yeah.
Um,
And
those
if
two
I'm wrong,
teams,
anybody out there, sorry.
I'm sure someone will let us know if we
Yeah.
are. Either one of these two teams, right? Completely capable of beating an Indian Hills or a Burlington, and both of these teams completely capable of winning games in Hutch. I mean, they're that good. That concludes the rewind. We're going to transition right away to the rundown and talk about today or this week's great games. So Monday, we know what Monday means. Monday means whackjack. And tonight, as we record this, Odessa at New Mexico. New Mexico, I'm just going to say it. It's my favorite court in America.
Only
Visually,
Nick Nielsen is texting me at night watching games, talking about how much he loves a junior college's basketball court. It was fantastic.
I mean, it is aesthetically pleasing. I am a Thunderbird fan because I think it's a great looking court. But beyond the aesthetics, give people a reason why they should be watching Odessa, New Mexico. I think
I
it's going to
mean,
be a slugfest.
Yeah, these are two teams that are that are vying for a championship, in that league because while South Plains may be the number one team in the country, now we're getting into the teeth of conference play. Anything can happen. So you got to go out and you got to get these wins. And these are kind of two of the teams that in the conference that have a chance to try and knock off South Plains. So we talked about last week that Macklin for Odessa needed to kind of find himself again, and he did against Frank Phillips with 15, 5, and 6. So he's got to kind of continue that into this game. And we talked a little bit about Antoine Massey last week, and he had a tough one against South Plains. It just wasn't the type of game that he wanted to have. So this he needs to really step up and come back in this one in a big way so that New Mexico has a chance to knock off Odessa.
We're going to transition to Wednesday. We got 4 games on Wednesday, and I'm going to give you those in two packs, Brandon. We have a little citrus matchup, Indian River at Eastern Florida, and then we're going to talk about Northwest Florida at Tallahassee. Tallahassee may be a little bit of no one's talking about them. Maybe they're Cinderella in the Panhandle, right? They're a good record. No one's really talking about them. Kind of the third child behind Northwest Florida and Chipola. Talk Florida Wednesday hoops action.
So, we talk about Whack Jack and how great that league is and everything else, and then you come down to Florida and it's just another absolute slugfest. Coach Bill Morosco taking on his I guess would be one of his mentors in Jeremy Schulman, as Bill was an assistant at Eastern Florida. You've
But he
got
doesn't dress like him at all.
no, he definitely didn't learn his style tips
He needs
from
more
Coach
flair.
Schulman.
More flair.
I just need to send him a pink tie and see what happens. I don't know. But Owen Aquino's having an All-American type season. Jay Woodard this week just committed to East Carolina, which is a great get for them and a great choice for him, I think. So, you've got this super, super, super high level talent going against each other. But this could, if Eastern Florida is able to pull this out, this could be the Luka Kolsic game because I think Owen is playing so well that Indian River is going to really have to focus on him, which means somebody else has got to step up. And Luka Kolsic is more than capable of doing that. He's having a great season. But him and Owen have really been kind of the guys that the rocks that the East Florida has built their game plan on. So if Owen is drawing a lot of attention, it's going to need to be Luka Kolsic to grab the win. And then for Indian River, they've got scoring from so many different places. They run that super fast press. If they're able to lock in and play the way that they want to play, they're going to be a tough out. And then, yeah, you go down to Northwest Florida, Tallahassee. This is an interesting one because Tallahassee has Hayden Brittingham back. And so he's played 4 or 5 games. Tallahassee, coming out of the break, hasn't had much of a schedule, but former Coffeyville player that was really, really, really good. Went to UT Arlington for a minute, back to Coffeyville. Ended up not playing, and now is at Tallahassee, and he is a player. I mean, he is a bona fide mid-major stud player, and so Northwest Florida, as they looked at the roster and saw that semester change over and saw Hayden Brittingham get added to the roster, they probably weren't thrilled about that because he is a good one. So Northwest Florida needing a bounce back, Tallahassee being able to add a huge piece late here.
I'm going to give you another 2 pack, Brandon. Little package deal. Trinity Valley Lee, Barton Hutchinson. These are probably when the poll comes out today, probably 4 of the top 15, 16 teams in the country. So not only is this about what's happening in the region, but these are games that have direct impact on potential at-large selection as well.
Yeah, I mean, this is probably some of the better basketball that we've seen out of Region 14 in the last couple years. Both of these teams are on fire right now. A real just rock fight going to happen down there. Ahmad Bynum, former DePaul player from Trinity Valley, averaging 17, 4, and 3, is really just such a huge part of what goes on there. And then Lee, with Devin Laverne and DeCannon Wickware, both about 13, 14 points a game, something like that, scoring from a lot of different places. But these are two very well coached teams. These are two super, super tough teams. And whichever one comes out on top here, the other one is still well on their way to having a phenomenal season, but this is going to be a great game to watch.
Absolutely. Barton at Hutch. Hutch is really surging right now. They're not trapping as much. This is a different Hutch kind of defense, different schematics, but they've kind of tweaked things to fit their roster. Big game on Wednesday night.
Yeah, I mean, credit to Coach DeSalma for kind of, you know, making some changes to how they play. We always kind of joked about like, Hutch winning a game at 65 points or something like that. But, some of that has also been very intentional, realizing what kind of personnel you have and things like that. So Barton is playing as well as anyone in the country right now. Coach Coombs has them really rocking. They're on a 6-game Jayhawk win streak. But both teams last lost to Cowley. And we talked a little bit about Cali earlier and last week, especially with how talented they are. So now, these two teams are kind of squaring each other up and seeing maybe who's going to take that next step in these Jayhawk rankings. And then for Hutch, Cameron Thomas shooting 48% from three. I don't care who you are, how you play, whatever. And he's doing it on 5 or 6 attempts a game. That is impressive. If he can get hot, that's going to be a tough one for Barton to defend.
And then Thursday, a little bit of additional whack-a-jack action. New Mexico Howard. We haven't talked a lot about Howard. They could be a little bit of a sleeping giant potentially in the whack-jack. Brandon Hall's really having a nice year for Howard.
Yeah, and he's shooting the ball better right now too, just recently here, and that's going to be a big piece for them. And then, of course, Joey Mademba is one of the best JUCO players in the country. So, Howard is not having necessarily the kind of season that they maybe wanted to have right now, but they're right on the cusp of just kind of starting to jump up. And when you have huge games night in and night out in the Whack Jack, you can absolutely do that. So New Mexico having to go on the road there at Howard is that's going to be a tough one.
And then Saturday, we have 5 games we're going to talk about. I'm going to break them into a 3-pack and a 2-pack for you. Huge week for Eastern Florida, right? We've already talked about their game with Indian River. They come back on Saturday. They play at Daytona State. And then Sauk Valley, who has sneakily played one of the toughest schedules in the country at Triton. Triton still undefeated. And then Vincennes at Olney. Kind of an unusual game, maybe on the list that people don't understand from a national perspective how tough that game is. But I would say Vincennes, this is a big week for them because I would put them like on upset alert, right? They just come off beating Logan. And then Wednesday, they go at Swick, which Coach Harrington, Coach Franklin have played each other like literally 70 times over the past 27 years. There's no secrets. The game's probably going to be like 48-36. And then at Olney. So 2 tough games on the road for Vincennes. Give me some quick thoughts on that 3-pack.
Yeah, so Eastern Florida going at Daytona, after having just played Indian River is that's hard.
If they win both games, though, this could be one of those weeks that it really propels them nationally and gets them in the mix,
Could
to
be a
be
real
in that
tipping
at
point.
large, right? Could be a
100% could be a
massive
real
week
tipping
for
point for them.
Titans. Yeah.
Daytona, Yosue's been the star this year, but Kylan Green has been the floor general. And Coach Schulman is as good as anybody in the country. So watching him and Coach Joey Cantons go against each other is going to be a lot of fun. Kylan Green really has been probably that anchor for Daytona that has them playing so well. And then, yeah, let's go down to Sauk and Triton. We just saw Sauk upset Indian Hills the other day. Burris had 24 free throws in that game for Sauk. So, he's definitely playing with a ton of aggression, but like we talked about last week, Triton has the holy trinity of guards and Williams, Aguiard, and Dixon. Those are 3 tough guys to hold down. So this should be interesting. But Salk is as battle tested as anybody in the country. And then when we go out to Vincennes, only, yep, a much tougher game than people, maybe realize on the outside. LeBron Thomas, the star for Vincennes, but somebody that we talked about last year that you and I both loved, Michael Osebonsu, is just
E-class.
he's just a rock out there. And so I love watching him play. Really excited to see this one and see him get after it on the glass, especially.
You just feel like if it doesn't work out in basketball for him, he's going to be a defensive end or a tight end. I mean, the NFL is calling him if it doesn't work out in basketball.
100%. Just go hit the guy in the that says hike.
He just pounds people in such a beautiful way. Um, Saturday night, 2 big ones, and to me, maybe the best basketball rivalry in all of basketball at any level. Indian Hills at Southeastern. It just feels right. It bleeds JUCO. And then Garden City Hutch.
Yeah, and this one for Indian Hills could be a bit of a tipping point too, where, you drop that game against Salk. They've got a couple injuries that they're dealing with right now, but if they can get those guys back healthy this week, uh, and throw everything they've got at Southeastern, it's still going to be an incredibly difficult game. This is always a ridiculous game, regardless of who is having a great season or not.
And I don't know
Um,
what the weather is, but I can promise you that there will be as many people as you can possibly fit into Lauren Walker Arena will be
yeah,
there, right? I mean, it'll be
yeah.
packed.
Yeah, well, they'll be ready to welcome back Josh Sash to Burlington. So it's gonna be a tough one. And then, yeah, the Garden City Hutch game, Brody Robinson probably really needs to control the pace here, because at Hutch, with the guards as good as they are for Garden City, I think Coach DeSalma is going to really try and speed them up. He's going to try and take them out of their game. And so if Brody can control the pace, that's going to give Garden a lot better chance at winning a tough road one here in the Jayhawk.
And then our final game of the week that we're going to talk about on Sunday. I don't know why it's planned on Sunday. Um, Butler at Cali. That probably directly conflicts with the Chiefs fans, but talk Butler Cali.
Yeah, but Butler's still got to get through Cloud earlier this week. I think this is Cowley's next game. I could be wrong about that, but Butler's still got to get through Cloud, which is going to be a tough one. We've all been talking about Jeff Nwankwo for Cowley, who is a phenomenal player. His recruitment has really started to take off, but Ajante Dallas has been phenomenal for them, 16 points a game. And so, if he's able to really kind of lock in and get some things done there, and then get all those Jeff Nwankwo getting doing what he does and getting that support from the rest of the team. This is going to be a really tough one, but it should be, again, a phenomenal game. Jayhawk is as good as it's been, I think, for a while. It's you don't have anybody just going undefeated and whatever, because you just can't in this league. It is such a hard league, and there are 6 7 teams that on any given night can beat anybody in the country. So going to be
Yeah,
another
Pratt almost did, right? Pratt almost
yeah.
they went to South Plains, almost beat South Plains, and Coach Hayden has talked glowingly about Pratt. Believe it or not, that's it. We got through. We got through it. We did all the games. We got through the rundown. Stay with us when we come back. We're going to have Coach Donnie Tyndall from Chipola with us on the spotlight. Thank you.
As the second largest intercollegiate athletic association in the country, the NJCAA serves not only a pivotal role in college athletics, but in higher education. The NJCAA Foundation aims to move the association forward through resources, grant programs, and other special initiatives. Your gift to the NJCAA Foundation will make a difference and create opportunities.
Intensity fuels these champion student athletes to greatness. Zurich Insurance is proud to be the official provider of student athlete insurance for the National Junior College Athletic Association. Throughout the highs, we cheer along to their screams of victory. Throughout the lows, we support them through their tears of defeat. Zurich Insurance, helping student athletes play the sport they love.
Welcome back to the Spotlight. Today we are honored to be with Coach Donnie Tyndall from Chipola. He's in his 4th season at Chipola, and if my math is correct, your next game versus Pensacola, you'll be going for your 100th win at Chipola. I believe you're 99-17 overall. You have had an incredible record since you took over the helm at Chipola. 3 seasons, 3 Panhandle Conference championships, 3 trips to Hutch. You got this thing rocking and rolling. Coach, thanks so much for joining us.
Well, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on. And you realize you just jinxed me now. I'm going to lose the Pete on Wednesday and get my 100th win. It's going to be on you, man.
The JUCO Jam jinx does not exist. It does not exist.
I don't know if that's true, Nick, but
We've done in some other people, but I know when I ask coaches across the country, who do you think the best coach is? You're always one of the top 3 names that come up. So I think you're so good. I think you can overcome the
The
JUCO
jinx.
Jam jinx. But 17-1 overall, 1-0 in the Panhandle Conference with a huge win over Northwest Florida at their place on Saturday. What do you like most about this team?
Well, I tell you guys, the biggest thing I like about this team is what I haven't seen with this team yet, and that's a full, healthy team. You know, we have not played one game yet where all 15 guys have been healthy and ready to play that particular night. We finally got a couple really good guards back about 3 weeks ago, and then we lost the reserve guard off the bench who injured his ankle, and he's been out a couple weeks. So we're just now kind of starting to find our way we've got at least 14 healthy bodies. I think some roles are finally starting to be established and defined. And so that's the biggest thing I like about our team is where I think we can be in another month or so as these guys that have kind of found their way health-wise round into shape.
I love that. When I think of Chipola and Coach Donnie Tyndall, the one thing that I think of is defense. And I'm going to rattle off a couple of stats here, Coach, before I ask you a question. So bear with me and give me a little bit of grace. Currently 12th in the NJCAA at holding opponents to 63.6 points per game. You're allowing the opposition to shoot only 36.6% from the field, which is 6th in the country. And you're out rebounding your opponents by almost 11 rebounds per game. How do you get these young men to consistently play great defense year after year, who many may have not ever really been asked to play defense before Chipola and being coached by you?
Well, you know, I've always said in coaching, you get what you emphasize. And our emphasis every single day on the practice floor, in the film room, has always been defending and rebounding. I really believe that's how you win championships. Certainly, you're going to have nights where you make every shot and you outscore your opponent, but there's going to be a bunch of those nights you don't make a lot of shots. And if you don't defend and rebound, you're not going to give yourself an opportunity to win. And you know, we've done it at every level, the Division I level, even when I was the head coach in the G League. And you think it's hard getting junior college guards to defend, Nick, try getting those G Leaguers to defend. But we were number 1 in the G League in defense, which, you know, again, it's what we emphasize. It's what we demanded. And in regard to how you do it, I think, you know, Coach Knight, who was the man when I was growing up, you know, him and Coach Patino, he says it pretty easy. It's pretty easy. You're either going to defend or you're not going to play. And obviously every guy wants to play. They're trying to enhance their stock, improve their opportunities down the road for after they leave junior college. And if they're not on the floor playing, they're not going to get a chance to do that. But I think what eventually happens is once you show so much take to these guys that defending and rebounding helps you win, winning helps everybody in regard to improving the opportunities that they will have as the season moves along, they eventually buy in. They really do. Very seldom have we had a team that wasn't into defending and rebounding. And I think this team is pretty much starting to do the same. Although we didn't rebound it real well against Tavion Banks and the boys over at Northwest Florida the other night.
Yeah, I believe you're actually out rebounding that game, right? By a couple of rebounds.
I think it was 7. Yeah.
That doesn't happen very often for one of your teams.
Yeah, well, Tavion's pretty good. You know, I told our team all summer long about how good he is, and you know, he played pretty good this game. But you go to some of these classics, and the other teams playing in front of you, whether it's us playing in front of them, we don't play real well, and they're probably thinking, Chipola's not very good, or we watch Northwest or someone play and they don't play great, and our guys, you know how they are, they're going to say, they're not that good. Well, they saw the real Tavion Banks in Northwest Florida on Saturday. He's a monster. I love that kid.
The Panhandle Conference, I think maybe for the last 30 years has kind of been held out as, you know, the great conference or the best conference in junior college basketball. Although, you know, there's great junior college teams, coaches, players throughout the country, but I think the Panhandle is a little bit different. One thing that I've always found interesting is how you play each other 3 times. Do you like this uneven schedule? I know that if I was a coach, that would drive me absolutely crazy every year.
Well, it is challenging. Obviously, some years it's going to play to benefit us or your team, and other years it's going to benefit somebody else. So it's, you got to take the good with the bad. How about our first year? It was COVID, so we shortened the non-conference schedule, guys. We played each other 4 times. So you can imagine, I think the last conference game of the year, Tallahassee had been top 5 in the country all year, and we knew each other so well. We held them to 40 points in that last game. I mean, it's like a slugfest, game 2 and 3, but think about 4 times. But I think, to answer your question, it is what it is. Every other year, you're going to get an opponent on your home floor twice, and the next year you're going to have to go back there twice. And as you mentioned, the Panhandle Conference, I tell people it's like the SEC of junior college basketball. Every single night you're playing against a great coach. Every single night you're playing against great players. And many of these environments aren't your typical junior college environment where there's 14 people in the stands. Like, it's real crowds, real fans, bands, cheerleaders. Like, it's a good atmosphere. It really is. So it makes it for a lot of fun. It's challenging. And that's a big reason that I took the job here at Chipola, Nick.
And you've mentioned, you've coached in the G League, you've coached at the highest levels of college basketball, but what do you specifically enjoy the most about coaching at the junior college basketball level?
Well, I think the biggest thing is the transformation or the impact you get to have on a young man, bettering his life, not just in basketball, but all the way around. Let's call it is what it is in regard to many of these young men come to junior college because their academics weren't in place coming out of high school or prep school. So now you got a chance to form or help form a guy's academic background where he can get his 2-year degree and move on to the Division I level. And I'll give you a couple quick stories that are just so impactful to me. We had a kid, Jaden Zachary, just a flat stud as a player, was 3 times first team All-State in Wisconsin. Okay. Did not get a Division I basketball offer. Now, this kid happened to be a great student, about a 3.8 student, great ACT score, goes to prep school and plays for one of the best prep school coaches in the country, and Chris Cheney. Does an outstanding job, has a great year. They go 45-5. He still does not have a Division I scholarship offer on the table. So we convince him to come here to Chipola. He's here for 8 months. All right. Makes the dean's list both semesters. We get him to lose about 12, 14 pounds. He had to lose a little weight, got in better shape, and started playing with confidence. By the end of the year, he led us to the Final Four. Nick, he was the best guard in the country, and he signs at Boston College. He's been at Boston College 3 years now. He started all 3 years. The other night, he had 18 points against Clemson. So to me, those are the type of stories, and those are the type of impacts that I can have on young people. And that's the reason I left the NBA. Everyone said, well, why don't you just ride it out? And eventually you're going to have a chance to be an NBA head coach. And I don't know if that would ever really came to fruition or not. But at the end of the day, I missed impacting young people off the basketball floor. Certainly you have a Kenneth Fareed at Morehead State that you help do special things on the floor too. But just the fact that you can impact these young guys and help them away from basketball. And Jaden Zachary is just one of 15 or 20 I could tell you about since I've been here at Chipola. And the other night, JT Warren, who was a player for me last year, he's at Northwestern State redshirting this year. Going to be a nice player, but he hurt his knee. And, he's texting my assistant saying, man, it was so fun to watch your Northwest Florida game. Coach T means the world to me. Now, mind you, it was $8 to get the Northwestern Florida game. I know that's not much, but for a young guy to, number one, want to watch our game, pay $8 to do it, and then be texting the assistant about the win, that's pretty humbling to me, man.
Yeah. It says something about the culture that you've created, right? And the relationships that you've built throughout the years. What are the areas that you feel this team needs to improve upon, to get back to the Final Four, give yourself a chance at winning a national title for Chipola?
Yeah, I think it's probably 3 things. The first would be certainly we have to limit our turnovers. We're turning the ball over at too high of a rate. For example, the other night we had 11 turnovers in the first half against Northwest Florida. We're down 4 at the half, and then the second half we only turned it over 5 times. So when you can limit those turnovers, especially on the road against quality opponents, at least you're going to give yourself a chance to win the game. And so that's number one. I think the second thing is we certainly have to continue to improve. Although you mentioned we're a good rebounding team, we need to become a great rebounding team, an elite rebounding team, if you're going going to try to play to get to a national title game or a Final Four, even really just to get to the national tournament. So that would be the second thing. And then honestly, I'm knocking on wood saying this, but we got to stay healthy. You know, if we can continue to have our entire roster intact and then improve in the two areas I just mentioned, then I think this could be my deepest, most talented team since I've been here. But if you lose one or two of those guys, get injured again, or go back out of the lineup for a month or so, obviously that impacts your team.
Coach, I get to wrap up the interview with the most important question. So I don't know if you've seen the show or not before, so I don't know if you know what's coming, but this is the big one. So let's say you come off a big, the fear in Coach's eyes right there that I just saw. He doesn't know what's about to happen.
I just feel like he has the full scouting report already.
he just looked over at Coach Lane and said, what did you just set me up for? Well, let's just say we just had a great win and Coach Lane did a phenomenal job. And you said, you know what, Lane, we're going to go out someplace special for team dinner. And you pull into the parking lot and the Chili's neon sign is glowing across the parking lot. What are you ordering at Chili's, Coach?
At Chili's. Okay, well, first of all, let me say this about Lane. Lane's going to be a head Division I coach one day. He's a superstar in the business, but the only thing that can keep him from doing that is the way he eats. Now, this dude eats like a linebacker. So if we can keep his weight down and him in shape, he's going to be a rock star. So if I go to Chili's and it's with Lane, we're certainly going to get some appetizers. There's going to be an order cheese sticks. Now he's probably going to want to get some of those tasty shrimp, whatever they're called, bang shrimp or whatever. Ooh. And then I think, you know, I'll probably got to go with the riblets, man, the riblets and some fries. And, you know, if my team's not around, I'm going to have a glass of Riesling wine. If they're there, I'll probably go with the lemonade.
Now, Coach, we've had the riblets come up before. I believe it was Heath Schroyer that went full bib with the riblets. Do you go bib or no bib now?
I don't need the bib. I've lost about 30 pounds this summer, so I don't need the bib, but I know Heath very, very well. And I would agree. He probably needs 2 bibs.
And I believe he said that he keeps an extra dress shirt at all times because of the potential rib incidents that occur on the road.
Well, he's one of those dudes. He's prepared like me, so I believe that.
100%. Well, Coach, we appreciate you coming on. Best of luck the rest of the season. And when we come back, we are going to get into the grind.
Welcome back to JUCO Jam. Now we're going to transition to the grind. Today we're going to talk about Josue Grion from Daytona State, 6'4", 195 pounds, sophomore guard out of Santo Domingo, Dominican Republic. 20 points a game, 43% field goal, 34 from 3, 79% free throw, 6.5 rebounds, 4 assists. This is a guy that does a little bit of everything. Mr. Goebel, what do you see from Josue? And then what is his kind of upside and recruitment look like?
Yeah, a little bit of everything for, where are they, about the number 2 team in the country, somewhere in there. Not bad. Phenomenal kid, really, really talented, just all over the floor. got to see him a little bit outside of his team in the spring, playing in an event with us, and was a J48 invitee. Unfortunately, was not able to make it. Somebody at border didn't like something signed, and he had to stay back in the Dominican Republic for an extra week, which Joey Cantons was just beside himself because Coach Cantons was one of our coaches at the event, and so he was working the phones trying to make that happen, and just unfortunately didn't. But Josue showed back up later in the summer and got to work, and he is arguably one of, if not maybe by the end of the season, the best shooting guards in the country. He just gets so many different things done. If the shot's open, he can make the shot. If the pass is there, he can make the pass. He rebounds, he plays hard. And like I said, he's a phenomenal kid. His recruitment is actually probably nowhere near where it should be right now. And that can be said for a lot of players in junior college, but I think here, once we get into the heart of this this conference schedule, things are going to really take off for him.
Yeah, if they make it to the national tournament and he has a stage, his recruitment will blow up.
Yeah, it'll be bonkers. It'll be ridiculous.
Yeah. And I think, for most junior college kids, I think at that level, I think there's an element where, these top programs, maybe the Power 5 conferences, for whatever reason, they wait until the very end. But Josue's a guy you don't want to sleep on.
Absolutely not.
Get involved today. Another guy who trajectory completely changed because of the national tournament as we transitioned to the show was Jason Edwards. Too small Jason Edwards, currently at North Texas, played at Dodge City last year, 6 foot, 170 pounds, out of Atlanta, currently averaging 17 points a game, 38% from three, and something that I know that you will respect, 86% from the free throw line. And in fact, he has 8 double-figure games in a row, scored 37 versus Tulane. Once again, the North Texas pipeline of JUCO point guards is alive and well, thanks to Jason Edwards. You know this kid really well, Brandon.
Yeah, he actually redshirted at a D2 school, a smaller D2 school as a freshman. Was just looking for an opportunity, and he found one with Dodge. Credit to Ross Hodge, head coach at North Texas, for never shying away from smaller guards, and Jace Hurl really kind of jumping in there and getting that one done. Jace, former head coach at Northwest Kansas Tech, knows what he's talking about. He doesn't care what size you are. If you're in the Jayhawk doing what he was doing, that means something. So fantastic kid, came out of junior college with 3 to play because of that red shirt. And so he is he just night in, night out is an explosive player that everybody around the country is seeing some of these numbers that he's putting up and going, well, where did he come from? Nick, that I'm a sometimes petty person. And so what I like to do after a 37-point game against Tulane is go search my phone for Jason Edwards too small and see what coaches texted that to me and screenshot it and text it back to them. So, but just in fun.
All in jest. If I was a small guard, I would be raising my hand and reaching out to the coaching staff at North Texas and say, please take me. I know I can do well. I want to be the next Jason Edwards or Tyler Perry or whoever it might be, right? They've had such great luck, and it's great to see someone from the junior college level go to a North Texas and just do so incredibly well. So super excited for him. Stay with us. When we come back, we'll have our closing thoughts on what we call our sixth man.
As the second largest intercollegiate athletic association in the country, the NJCAA serves not only a pivotal role in college athletics, but in higher education. The NJCAA Foundation aims to move the association forward through resources, grant programs, and other special initiatives. Your gift to the NJCAA Foundation will make a difference and create opportunities.
Intensity fuels these champion student athletes to greatness. Zurich Insurance is proud to be the official provider of student-athlete insurance for the National Junior College Athletic Association. Throughout the highs, we cheer along to their screams of victory. Throughout the lows, we support them through their tears of defeat. Zurich Insurance, helping student-athletes play the sport they love.
Welcome back to JUCO Jam. Today we're going to talk about our sixth man with just some closing thoughts. I'm going to talk about Jalen Johnson, one of my favorite players to watch in the country, point guard out at CSI. He's from the Houston area. Out of high school, he didn't have any Division I offers. He goes to a small D3 school, Concordia, averages about 20 points a game, becomes the freshman player of the year, and he decides to transfer to CSI in hopes of springboarding his career to, getting his dream come true to have a Division I opportunity. He's having an incredible year at CSI, and he has been just paramount in the resurgence of the Golden Eagles this week with big, what some people would consider upset wins over Salt Lake and Snow. He was at the forefront of that. So I think Division I is in his future. I think he's had a great season, and I hope he gets that chance next year to have a Division I opportunity.
Absolutely. He's been phenomenal. And like we talked about earlier in the show, that resurgence for CSI here in the second half of the year has a lot to do with him. My sixth man is going out to Jonathan Mogbo, former hashtag JUCO product from Northeast Oklahoma A&M, played 2 seasons there. And he has exploded onto the national consciousness this year, where everybody is talking about him. He's averaging 15 points, 11 rebounds, 2 blocks a game. And there's a chance he might win Player of the Year in the West Coast Conference, a conference that has St. Mary's and Gonzaga in it. A hashtag JUCO product is in the discussion right now. He's 23rd in the entire country in offensive efficiency, and he may be the best overall rebounder in the entire country, as he's 8th in the country in offensive rebounding percentage and 2nd in defensive rebounding percentage. He's 6'9", he's 200 and whatever he is pounds. He is tough and athletic and physical. And he's such a great story because he was a little guy going into high school, kind of, one of those stories like he just shot up all of a sudden, went to junior college, was relatively under recruited. And, we mentioned this guy before, Jace Hurl, recruited him from Neo to Missouri State. And then when Coach Hurl then went on to North Texas, Jonathan Mogbo decided to transfer, and he went to San Francisco this year and is just having an unbelievable year, huge impact on that team. And like I said, chance to win a Player of the Year in a conference as good as the West Coast Conference would be something. But whether he wins or not, the guy is going to make a lot of money playing basketball.
He's already won the game, right? I would think it's a surefire thing that he'd be at the NBA draft combine or would have an invite.
Yeah, he's starting to pop up on all of those things. Jonathan Gavoni from Draft Express is starting to talk about him. And when Gavoni talks about you, people are watching you. He's not shooting the ball or anything. He's being that Clint Capella up and down, dunk on your face, do everything kind of guy. And Clint gets paid a lot of money to do that.
Yeah. Well, you have a immediately transferable skill, which you're an elite rebounder. And when you're an elite rebounder, you always have the chance to have a home because there's not a lot of those humans that exist.
Yep. It is a special skill. People think it's just jumping up and grabbing a basketball, but I'm here to tell you it's not.
Absolutely. Mr. Goebel, great show as always. Appreciate you. Everybody out there, stay warm, stay inside, and watch some JUCO. Have a great week. We'll be back next week for episode 7.